Today we're talking about belonging. It's start of a series we're doing in small groups. If you would like to join a small group, we'll have a place for you to sign up outside at the front desk. And you can sign up for hopefully one that fits your schedule and your location if you want to be there in person. We have a few that are online, and we have one that's open. You can drop in on Thursdays at 12 o'clock. So there's the logistics. Longing to belong is the title. I think our world is quite filled with that right now. There was a study done in 2004, which was somewhat of a replication of a study done in 1988. And the difference between the two is stark. We have gotten much worse at feeling like we belong. There was a question asked in that survey: who would you talk to, or how many people would you talk to if you had a problem? How many do you have in your life that you would talk to? And the average American in 2004 said 2, but 25% of the people said 0. And that's 19 years ago. How do you think we're doing now? I think in general, the world has, especially over the last few years, we've gotten more isolated, we felt more separate. And the reason we're focusing on belonging in this series, and also for the whole year, is that one of the gaps, I think, in our mental health and physical health is a sense of belonging. As many of you know, loneliness is a factor toward your health that is worse than being obese, than smoking, or high blood pressure. And one of the things that happens when we feel a sense of threat, and one of those is not belonging, one of the things that happens is that our immune system kicks in and inflammation starts. And the inflammation is geared toward bacteria and away from viruses. Does that sound like a bad condition for the recent years? That their body is anticipating a wound that would be infected by bacteria, and so it's ignoring its defense against viruses. So here we have plenty of reasons for wanting to belong. We are a social species. We and almost all mammals have that in common. There are studies where rats will deliberately go out of their way to help other rats in need. Also true with baboons. Also true with 2-year-olds. 2-year-olds are known to see someone, say, drop something they couldn't reach, get up and cross a room over multiple obstacles to pick up the thing to give it to the person. And another study that was done on giving was that handed some money and asked to decide in a matter of seconds what you would do with it, more people came up with, I'd give it away than I would spend it. We are not really designed to be alone, nor are we designed to feel like we don't belong. Our bodies are designed that way, our minds are designed that way, our emotions are designed for us to belong. And we long to belong. We definitely long to belong. I want to read you a quote by Eugene O'Neill, who didn't feel like he belonged. Maybe this sounds familiar in some emotional way. It was a great mistake, my being born a man. I would have been much more successful as a seagull or a fish. As it is, I will always be a stranger who never feels at home, who does not really want and is not really wanted, who can never belong, who must be a little in love with death. Tough. He had a tough life, we know, but it is part of the human condition these days with the displacement, because we move a lot, is that if we don't find a way to reintegrate, we suffer. And so I think for many of us, having a sense that we belong is part part of the reason we're here today. Is that we realize that when we were the group of people who have somewhat of the same inkling of understanding of the way the world is, or how spirituality is, or the importance of your interior life, when you're around people like that, you get a sense, unlike what Eugene O'Neill had, a sense that, so maybe these are my people. And I think it is one of the gems of the experience to be able to relax. When I was in seminary, my first seminary was a Presbyterian seminary, and I didn't feel like I belonged there. I was there because it was just the next thing on my spiritual path, but I really didn't feel like I belonged there. And I remember feeling in class, I would go, yes, no, 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 yeah, no, yes, and like that. The next time I really noticed that was when I was going to a week-long thing at Unity. I'd been introduced to Unity about halfway through my Presbyterian days, and I went to this seminar that lasted 5 days and was about 6 hours a day. And I remember going, yes, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And before it was over, I felt like I was going to fall down, literally, because I had defined myself in so many ways along these theological, spiritual lines as against and not fitting. And then when I had the chance to find my tribe, I was off balance because I wasn't used to being part of. I didn't have something to push against. And maybe some of us have found that we have, for so much of our life, pushed against. Maybe because we were born slightly quirky, or maybe we just cultivated being quirky. But we defined ourselves as, I'm not like everybody else. Anybody here confess to that? Good for you. Also dangerous. Also dangerous not to belong. So if you can find a place where you do belong, where you feel like these people agree with me, I think you should take advantage of it, because your health, your mental health, your emotional health could be improved by being with people that you can agree with. Not that you have to agree with everything, or follow blindly, or be an idiot. You still have your own mind. You still have your own sense of, I choose, I make my decisions. But you could find friends who have made similar ideas their core experience. So let's be grateful that we have a place. If this is your place, be very grateful you have a place. And realize that this place was built starting 35 years ago with the intention of making a place for you, and you have finally arrived. So it took a while, but we're here. And this can be your place. And to cultivate this sense of belonging, there's some techniques. One of which is to let yourself relax. Stop defending. There's less to defend than you think. Because aren't we all longing to see people in their true color and not according to how they think we should be? So if you want to feel like you belong, you can't bring a false self to it, because then you'll have that imposter syndrome where you think they like you because you look like you think they want you to look. So you have to be daring enough to bring your own sense of self, however that is. And maybe you have to dial it down a little, sure. I mean, don't we all dial it down a little? but not so much that you're going to feel like they never get to know you. Or otherwise, how would you know they have accepted you and not the image you came with? So this is the process. You begin, as Brown would say, you begin to be vulnerable. You begin to bring your open-heartedness to it, your self-exposure. And I never expect people, nor would I encourage people, to dump it all right up front. You ever done that? Only to have people get the wrong impression of who you really are? Forever and ever, they keep that impression. There's nothing you can do to fix it. When I was 20, I was between my sophomore and junior year in college, and I went to the Grand Canyon for the first time to be a river guide. And the first thing you have to do is training, and it takes, in that time, it took 6 weeks, 3 two-week trips. And I remember arriving there, and I was as pasty white as you could get. I don't know how I got to be so white, but that Arizona sun was just burning my skin just horribly. And it was already dehydrating. And you know how you get kind of stupid and lightheaded? And then I'm trying to do something I've never done, which is pack for a river trip in these rubber bags and doing this. I'm just feeling completely out of place. Completely like, what have I done? Not exactly, but pretty close. I didn't feel like I was on an A game. And I knew this was a tryout. So it was, anyway. That evening, after dinner was put away, a friend of mine, who has now for many years been a very close friend, sat down and started talking. And we clicked on some level. And I don't know at all what we talked about, but from that moment on, we became progressively better and better friends. And I adopted his speaking style without even knowing it, so much so that his mother called and I answered the phone once and she thought I was him. When we are young and adaptable, it seems like it's easier to make friends. And that is because we're willing to change, consciously or unconsciously. And sometimes to really find yourself, you need to go beyond your current boundary into the world that you don't know and allow yourself to be molded or influenced by what's happening there. And in some ways, you can find your tribe by being that tribe that you weren't originally. So I was not originally born a river guide, but they are my tribe in so many ways because we shared some inclination for that kind of thing, for rivers and water and danger and etc. But we also faced difficulties together. And we went through, I did dangerous trips around the world with the same guys, and they became my people. So here's another tip. Do something together. Preferably, though you probably wouldn't choose this, do something you find uncomfortable together or dangerous or challenging at least. Do something that requires the best in you, and when it causes the best in you to show up, you will bond with these people because they helped you bring it out. Because we want to be heroes. We don't want to be average. We want to be the best of ourselves. There was a psychologist working with people who had been refugees and stuck on these rickety rafts and finally made it to shore, and he was working with them to get them to begin to feel they belong where they are. And one of the things he asked them to do was to define their story with them as the hero, not as a victim, not as a displaced person, but a heroic person who had made it across the ocean in a dangerous situation with others. Let you be your own hero in your own story. Take a chance, expand your horizon, and in that way adapt and become heroic in your own life. And the people you do the heroism of becoming one with them, they will be a new tribe you can be part of. They will be your place. Now, one of the things that I think we can do, especially in this group, to build a sense of community is to practice this heart meditation, which we just did, in which we begin to breathe into the heart, begin to invite the energy of the heart to expand, and then to let that energy out into the world. There is enough energy coming off the heart when it is activated that it can be felt, depending how well it's going, anywhere from a few inches to several feet away. You can actually measure it with instruments, but you can also feel it in another person. We have this ability to sense what their heart is doing. Have you noticed you have that? I remember the first time I heard somebody say, "Oh, he has good energy," and I thought, not about me, but about somebody else. "Oh, he has good energy," and I went, what a stupid way of talking. I've come a long way on that. I definitely think we can feel other people, right? You can feel their energetic field. It's part of the beauty of being in a room like this, where people are willing to hold a high vision of who you can be, and to hold their hearts open long enough that you can feel it. And then your heart opens and you begin to be the radiant one. So if you'd like to practice this, each Sunday at 10:30 sharp, we do a meditation on the heart for 20 minutes. I think, personally, whether you noticed it or not, it's part of the reason this felt like a good place to be. Because you walked into the room that had been infused with the energy of the heart for 20 minutes. And it's been going on now for several years, so it's some residue here. Now, if you would like to contribute to that, I suggest that you come here at 10:30, not at 11:45, as some people do. Come here early enough to participate in this heart-opening practice and feel the energy that's here and add to it. And as we do that, we build an energetic center in which more people will be willing to come that resonate with it. And it becomes a growing experience of open-heartedness. And the sense of belonging that happens when people come in the door often makes them cry. Sometimes just a trickle of a tear, sometimes real big boo-hoos. Because we are so tired of feeling alone. We are so willing to suffer because we don't know better. This is a way to do better. Now, on your own, in your own house, in your own family, this same energetic practice of opening your heart can do wonders. Quite often in families, it's harder to open your heart than we would like. And so you may have to practice on your own, in secret even. But the ripple effect through the family will be wonderful. The ripple effect of one person in a house opening their heart and sending love energy unconditional, in the sense they don't have to be different, just sending it as they are, provides the space for someone to try a new behavior, to try to be different, to open their own hearts, to risk something they couldn't do before. There was a study by this company called IONS. It's started by Edgar Mitchell, who in his space travel back from the moon had an experience of oneness with the whole universe, seeing the earth and the sun and the stars in a rotating fashion as the spaceship went home. Something clicked for him, something that had clicked for many spiritual leaders over thousands of years. Ones where they say, I am one with the Father and the Father is one with me. I think when he got that click, he realized that the very matter that we are made of, that the body is made of, is the same matter that the universe is made of. And the very consciousness that we have, we share with all of it. They've been doing studies to see if that's true, scientific studies with measurable results. One of the ways they have done that is to have someone have the intention on another person, and to see, once they have done that, isolated in a lead box, can there be a transference of information or something between those two people? And they have MRIs to show that as one brain is elicited by an external stimulus, the one in the box has the same, well, not exactly the same, somewhat less, but some of the same experience. Now, think about what that means. If you're condemning someone, or you're having compassion for someone, either way, you're affecting the person at a distance. Whether you're seeing them as enemy or friend will affect what their internal experience is as well. Whether you're sending love or, let's say, fear, they will have a similar response. Now, on the external, on the visual side, when you're standing face to face, we already see this. There are these neurons in our bodies that have us mirror the other person. So if they smile, you tend to smile. If they yawn, you tend to yawn. But this is saying, even if we can't see, we have an effect on other people. And because we have an effect on other people, to some degree, we have a responsibility that we use our minds in a constructive, happy way. The first director of this IONS Institute said, perhaps the very best thing we can do is to hold a high and beautiful vision for the world. That's been harder to do lately, hasn't it? There's been a lot of news, an enormous amount of input into our whole society that says, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying. I don't need to repeat it. I don't even need to fire in your minds another thought of that. Perhaps one of the things we could do is hold a higher vision for the world, for this country. So Martin Luther King started off with that. I mean, he wasn't one to just dwell on the good, but let me read you a quote you've probably never heard before. I have a dream. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave holders will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream. Now, if you think about that, what he's saying, I have a dream that everyone will belong at the table. The table of prosperity, the table of acceptance, the table of friendship. I think a group like this should practice the vision. Practice seeing what is possible. We know plenty of what is going wrong. But as a group of people who can imagine wonderful things, we should spend some time, if not a lot of time, imagining the world as we wish it to be, not just as we have been told it is. There's a story I recently heard someone say that, Darwin did not actually coin the phrase survival of the fittest. It was Herbert Spencer who was trying to justify the idea of racism and classism. He is the one who coined that phrase. Another way of saying something that Darwin might have said is it's survival of the kindest, E-S-T, kindest people. Because they are the ones who are in cooperation, which is the power and strength of our species. It is not the individualism that has brought us this far, but our ability to cooperate, to work together. We can do things that no other creature can do. You can buy something on Amazon from somebody in China and never even say hello to them. We can cooperate, right? This is our superpower. Kindness, cooperation, working together. And as we do that, we build a sense of community that extends beyond our normal little tribal areas all the way across the planet. So let's hold a vision high enough. And then I think something magical will happen for us, is that we will feel like we belong everywhere. We need to carry belonging in our own being, in our own sense of self. If we carry that with us, then we can go any place. Now, we may not be instantly accepted, but we can go any place and be at home. James Baldwin. Perhaps home is not a place, but simply an irrevocable condition, if we make it so. Let us pray. Let's practice our hearts opening again. And perhaps the easiest way is to breathe into the heart. Let that heart that has sometimes felt like it needed to be shielded from the world send a radiance into the world that says, I belong. Let the heart that has been nicked and wounded take a deep breath and breathe out love, acceptance, welcome. Let us be like James Baldwin, creating an irrevocable condition in our own being. accepting the world. Let us practice early and often, that we might be at peace, fulfilled, and belonging. And so it is. Amen. I hope you got something out of today's service. We intend to bring you things that will help you in your life become more of who you want to be, give you the freedom of forgiveness and the hope of expectancy that your life will unfold in a way that brings you joy, happiness, and is a contribution to the world. If you would like to contribute to this ministry, please go to unitytriangle.org, hit the donate button, and it will lead you into an easy way of doing that. We thank you for your attention and look forward to seeing you again here.